Hey Mama Bears, I'm Jamie Zaki, a nurse, certified doula, and international board certified lactation consultant, and I'm here to answer all of your questions about pregnancy, birth, and breastfeeding. Today, I'm going to try and answer the age-old question of how do I know I'm in labor? The unpopular but honest answer is you'll just know, but that doesn't really help, does it? Let's take a few minutes to talk more about contractions, pre-labor, prodromal labor, and early labor. Real quick before we dive too deep, I just wanted to take a moment to remind you to click subscribe at the bottom if you want to hear my new videos every single week, and make sure you click the little bell so you're actually notified when I post a new video. If you have any questions that you want me to talk more about or have any questions answered, please go ahead and leave some questions in the comments, and I would be happy to do a video on the topic you want to know more about. Okay, by this point in your pregnancy, you've probably experienced some Braxton Hicks contractions. Braxton Hicks contractions feel like a tightening in your belly, and they typically increase when you're moving around a lot or dehydrated. Typically, if you drink some water, get some rest, or change positions, they'll go away within a few minutes. But eventually, most women start asking the question, is this Braxton Hicks or is this real labor? So how do we tell the difference? Something else to note is that Braxton Hicks contractions can be frequent, but they're not typically super intense or coming super close together, and they typically will not last longer than 30 to 45 seconds. We also have something called prodromal labor. Prodromal labor is almost like an extended early labor, and some people refer to this as false labor. Prodromal labor is an absolute pain. Not in the sense that it's painful, it's just annoying. And it can be physically and emotionally exhausting. My own personal experience with 2 of my pregnancies, I experienced prodromal labor for 4 weeks before my children were born. This was 4 weeks of contractions that were around 5 minutes apart, and some were intense, some weren't, and they would last for a solid 30 to 45 seconds sometimes. Every now and then, I'd have a contraction that would bring me to my knees. That's how intense they could be. They felt very real in the sense that it felt like they were wrapping around my abdomen, which most people attribute to real labor. However, I wasn't in real labor. My body was just practicing for labor. To be truthful, there were times that I found prodromal labor to be more grueling than real labor. And I'm not telling you this to scare you guys. It's just one of those things a lot of people don't talk about, and I want you to be aware that it is a possibility you could experience this. So how did I know not to go to the hospital every time that I felt this false labor or prodromal labor? For starters, the contractions rarely lasted longer than 45 seconds. They would also be very sporadic in that they would come around every 5 minutes, but some would be very mild, some would be super intense, and then they'd just be very mild again. And they never really began to get closer together. They never gradually increased in intensity, and they never really gradually increased in length. They would just be sporadic, a 20-second one here, a 45-second one there, and then a whole bunch of 20-second ones. It wasn't like this gradual buildup that we see with real labor. Walking would typically make them more intense, but they'd almost always start to fizzle out. But if I was really unsure, I would take a warm Epsom bath, and usually they would start to fizzle out and my body would relax, and then I was able to get some rest, and I knew that it wasn't real labor. When it was finally time for real early labor to start, I knew because something just felt different. Like emotionally and hormonally, my body felt different, but the contractions were gradually building. They were gradually growing in intensity, and they were gradually getting closer together. Instead of being like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, it was like every 10 minutes for about a half hour, and every 7 minutes, then every 5 minutes. And it gradually got closer together and stayed in that pattern. And then for the intensity, they would gradually get more intense. I knew it was real when they would start getting between 45 seconds and 60 seconds consistently. I didn't have one for 45 seconds and then 20, 20, 20, 30, 20, 20, 20, a minute, 20, 20, 20. It was more like 30 seconds, 35, 30, 37, 30, 40, 30, 45, 35, 45, 37, 45, 37, 50, and it would gradually get longer and more intense. And then I started needing to focus on them. And once I started focusing on them and couldn't completely ignore them, I realized this is probably early labor. But what if you're experiencing contractions and you're really unsure if it's real early labor or prodromal labor? What should you do? My advice to you is to stay rested, nourish your body, eat healthy foods, stay hydrated, and relax. I know it's hard to relax when you're excited and maybe a little anxious, maybe even a little nervous, but early labor is a time to rest your body. If it's not early labor and it's this prodromal labor, it's a time to practice on getting in the mindset for real labor. And again, I hate the terms real labor and false labor because it's all emotionally and physically demanding and laborious. So I don't want to diminish the prep period and that pre-labor experience because it can be intense, but it's also hard to distinguish between the labor that is fruitful and the labor that is just exhausting. If you're full term and planning a low intervention birth and wondering, am I in labor? It's probably time for you to just rest and relax, because if you're in serious labor, which means you're about to meet your baby, you're not going to question it. So even if it is early labor, if you're not planning to rush to the hospital, what does it matter if you're in early labor or not? Honestly, like maybe you have to start arranging some things for childcare for your other children or pet care for your other pets that you might have at home if you're leaving to go to the hospital. But, you know, you can just text your people and say, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm feeling this type of way. Something might happen, something might not. Just want to have you on standby. I'll let you know if anything changes. Because if it's real early labor, something will change. It's not very common that first-time laborers will experience a precipitous labor, which is a labor that happens super fast, usually under 3 hours. So you're gonna have time. You're gonna have time to take care of all those things that need to be taken care of before you rush off to your place of birth. Typically, the advice is to arrive to your birthing place around active labor. And once you're in active labor, you're not going to be wondering if it's real anymore. So I hope that kind of eases your anxiety in understanding if it's real or not real, because you really don't need to know until you need to know, and you will know. You're not just going to pop out a baby without knowing you're in labor most of the time. There's always exceptions, so I can't speak in absolutes. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any tips for how to relax in early labor or during pre-labor, I would love for you to share them in the comments below and share your experiences with pre-labor and early labor. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them below also. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get notified when I share my video next week on the benefits and risks of epidurals. I also want to share with you that on October 15th, I will be hosting a free webinar where I'm going to share my 5 secrets to an empowered birth experience. I would love to see you there. Make sure to pop down to the description to get the link so you can register for the webinar. I would hate for you to miss it. See you guys next week.